everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Male Perspective. I am your host, Lana Reid, and today I have with me, I'm so excited, I have one of my fellow compadres in this crazy, crazy world we call podcasting, Mr. Mike Muldoon. He is the host of Dooners World and Dooners Guide through Mirkwood.
That's right. You got it all right. That's right. That's right.
Awesome. Thank you for hanging out with me today, making time for me. Time is a valuable thing. We never get back, so I always appreciate it. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Thank you very much. Happy to connect with you. And we just talked about you're in Los Angeles. I'm in New York. We're both, broadcasting, right? So we're broadcasting our messages from different sides of the country. So it'll be cool to connect it and see where our paths meet, where they don't, where we can learn from each other. And
there you go.
Yeah, let's try to have some fun.
I love that energy. Now, I got a lot of stuff to ask you, and I only got 30 minutes, so I might seem a little chaotic.
I talk fast. Don't worry.
I have a plan here. I have a plan.
Right.
So I have been on season break, and before I went on season break, we were in the middle of COVID-19, and here I am. You're my first guest when I come back from season break, and we're still in the middle of this COVID-19 madness.
Who would have thunk it? Who would have thunk it, right? This is going to go wait a few months. We'll be good.
Yeah.
Not so much. Not so much.
But I want to talk about, you are, like you said, you are in New York, right?
I am.
And for a lot of us on the outside of New York looking in, your governor was a hero to many of us because he took a lot of proactive measures, implemented a lot of things when it came to COVID-19. But I always know that the kids on punishment inside the house have a different perspective sometimes than us looking on the outside. So how was it for New Yorkers, or how did they take the health restrictions in your area or New York as a whole? What were your observations about the whole COVID-19 madness?
Well, the thing is that when it came to us, right, really mid-March, all we had was China and Italy, right, as models of what to do. So, I mean, that's really where I started my show April 8th, right? So I was so close to this, watching it all happen. My job kind of stopped, went from like really working 70 hours a week to like nothing. And it was scary. It was, and it's interesting on this solemn day, 9/11, the New York perspective is being looked at around the world, right?
Yes,
so,
indeed.
bless all those that perished on this day.
Yes.
I've been thinking about them all day. And now here we are, right? Years later, and New York was also the focus. So my wife's in healthcare, right? She works 15 miles out of Manhattan. So when it first hit, she's an audiologist. That job stopped, and she was on the phones calling patients with COVID test results.
Oh, wow.
So she went from seeing 2 patients a day to make 80 to 100 calls a day. And a lot of people in New York had to do that. We retooled. But there wasn't time for a lot of the political banter that's going on now.
Okay.
It was kind of roll up your sleeves, do what you got to do. You see some of it now, but we were in the heart of it. People were safe. People were locked down. It didn't seem like it was even a question. It seemed like it was science, right? And a lot of it came from the leadership, I think, from Cuomo.
Okay.
Right around that time, I really stopped watching TV. I would watch sometimes his live broadcasts during that pinnacle. I mean, my cousin's a nurse, right? She was on the COVID floor wearing the spacesuit every day going to work, trying to save people, watching people die every day.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, we were really in the heat of it.
Okay.
But I think us, at least where I am, it's Republican, Democrat. We all got it. We had to take it seriously, and we did. And now I think we're kind of reaping the benefits of it to some extent because we all have a little bit of COVID calluses.
That's right.
We go out, we wear a mask. It is what it is. I think as you get outside regions in New York, there's more of that. Why the hell are you wearing a mask? Like it's a political statement. When no, it's I want to keep my grandma safe, and I don't want your grandma to die either.
Yes.
Right? So let's wear a mask.
That's right.
But so yeah, it's I think there's been solidarity where I am. My neighbor, Kenny Schmidt, who's been on my show, is the town supervisor. And he's a Republican, and he came on my show right around what was happening. I was looking at the date before. And it was the same thing. The gloves are off. We're together. If someone doesn't have heat, he's like, I call the company no matter what, party they're on. And we need that. We need more of that in the world. So, I mean, yes, there's political divide, especially as we're approaching the election. But for us, I think we were lucky that it was a little displaced from the election more because we got through it with solidarity. And hopefully we're a good model for the rest of the country to follow.
Beautiful.
Some aren't. There's still a lot of unknowns as we traverse the murky waters.
Yes, indeed, for quite some time, but I think that's beautiful because a lot of times for those of us outside of New Yorkers get a bad rap as being, these very selfish, but
sometimes we deserve it. Sometimes we earn that. We resemble that remark oftentimes.
Yes, but to see that you guys come through in solidarity in so many, and not only in this COVID-19, like you said, today we're talking on 9/11 and the way you guys rally rallied together throughout that whole matter in history is really a true testament to the stigma of New York is not really the true stigma of New Yorkers. So I just think it's beautiful.
Well, it's one of the biggest energy vortexes in the world, right? I mean, come on, it is, but that's good and bad and in between. But we do see special things in these moments when, I mean, what Giuliani did during 9/11 and what Cuomo did during now, I salute both of them for what they did to get people together and lead, which unfortunately we're not really seeing out of the central government.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Well, let's go on to talk about you preach a message that I'm really, really strong on, and it plays right into this COVID-19 stuff. And that's mindfulness, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of times we see as this COVID-19 has progressed, and you mentioned it just recently, you have people talking about, anti-maskers. I don't see, why I should wear a mask. And then also we are in the midst of social justice protest around the world. But I think it all ties into mindfulness. So what is your take on mindfulness, and why is it so really hard for people to look beside themselves and what's going on in their world? What's so hard? It seems like to me, people should just get it. Your fellow human being. It's your fellow human being.
Well, I think I see it two ways. There's mindfulness of being mindful of yourself, mm-hmm. and there's mindfulness of being mindful of others. Mm-hmm. And I think if you don't start with yourself and really know what you're about and what you want, then it's really hard to bring that out to others, right? That's why someone in pain, it's hard for them to bring someone else in pain. So for me personally, my mindfulness and my meditations and yoga throughout this helped me get in touch deeper with what I am and more my, compassion and wanting to help. I mean, I did a little charity thing with Katie Donovan where we sent snacks down to the NICU at the hospital every day because she had to go down there. So we just made use of that and we collected it from people around us. And it's challenging every day to be mindful, but now it's getting to a deeper level where there's fear and everyone's wearing a mask and we lose some of that communication when we're out in public and there's that negative energy. So there's a lot more unknown. So it's even more important to try to pick your spirits up and be mindful of others and try to, not second guess things, where just throw happiness at people and love. A lot of times someone might have a knee-jerk reaction and you're going to react back at them. And I do it. I'm guilty of it all the time. But mm-hmm. if you can take that second to be mindful and understand that that's coming from a place of probably pain and suffering somehow, mm-hmm. Maybe, take a step back and, if you could be the bigger person to lend a hand to pick that person up, do it, even if it's just a smile. Yes. Sometimes it's all it takes. But it's challenging. I heard one story from a friend last week who was traveling in upstate New York, walking down a hotel hallway, and he has a mask on. The guy passing didn't, and he got an F you and an F your mask from the guys he passed by. He was like, whoa, hey, how now? He was just going to get coffee in the morning, whoa. But like, how do you just, what do you say to that? How do you, sometimes you just got to kind of walk away and not react because that's not really, you're not going to get anywhere by reacting to that.
Yes.
For you or for the other person, right?
Yeah, so. And I think it's, it's a struggle because we have this culture, this mentality as Americans, like, I have this right to live my life as I wish to. And it's a borderline, where is it like me being an American, getting to do what I want to do, live my life how I want to, versus, wearing this mask for the benefit of my community. And, it's a really, we're struggling with that. These moments in history really struggle with the American philosophy, which tends to be very individualistic, versus, let's be a community and look out for each other. So it's really like a little pickle we find ourselves in sometimes.
No, and it's getting more complicated now with COVID. And it's like the gay marriage thing. You don't like gay marriage? Don't have one. Don't get one. Okay. But don't, just because someone else wants it, move on the buffet of life of what you want, focus on that.
That's right. So you mentioned that you started your podcast right at the beginning of this COVID-19?
It was April 8th. So I had kind of a spiritual awakening, like a Kundalini awakening of sorts on March 30th. I documented in my journal and it was moving and something otherworldly that I never experienced. And then, out of those 7 days from March 30th up till April 8th, it led up to this driving force that I have to get my voice and find my voice. And the first show didn't have a microphone. It was my Mac. I grabbed my guitar. I talked for like 10 minutes and I played, What I Got, Love's What I Got by Sublime. I just had to, I'm mostly a musician. I've been kind of a closeted musician for the last 25 years.
Okay.
I used to play lead guitar in a Frank Zappa cover band, some really complicated stuff, and kind of put that away, made a career, made a family, but, now the cat's out of the bag. So I found all culminated in both my voice of where we were at in proximity to New York and what was going on, me worrying about dying with my music in me. Right, Wayne Dyer. I don't have my Wayne picture. It's one of his main things is don't die with your music in you. And then once I had that awakening and everything came alive in my life, I've lived it, and that I needed to get my voice out. And then next thing you know, I have a microphone, and now I think I counted 76 shows I've done of mine. So what happened was it was Dooner's Guide Through Mirkwood. So that's what first came out in April. Right. I was like, so Dooner was one of my nicknames in college. I had decided between Dune Baby and Dooner, and my wife and the kids voted on Dooner instead of Dune Baby. I thought that sounded silly. And Mirkwood is the mystical forest from The Hobbit, right? Tolkien's book. And me and my cousin, who's co-hosted a few shows, 10 years older than me, we used to play in my backyard swamp, and he called it Mirkwood because he was a little older and he was reading Tolkien and probably smoking pot. And so that came, it was like Dooner's Guide Through Mirkwood. It just came as what we needed to do. So I did 40 shows of that, had, Ike Willis from Frank Zappa's band on, had a William Hung on, had some really good stars. And then all of a sudden, one of my friends was over one day and he was kind of questioning it. And a few people were like, what the hell does that mean? And at that point, we kind of made it through Mirkwood in my mind. Right. So this was around, I think it was during July. And then I just came up with Dooners World, because it is very similar to Wayne's World, right? I'm just love music. I'm passionate. You can see
Wayne's World, party time. Oh, right.
Yeah, but it's Dooners World where it's party time all the time. And I can really play that thing. Come on, Wayne was a hack. Mike Myers he'll admit it. But seriously, now I have Chris Franz from the Talking Heads coming on. Okay. I have Arthur Barrow, who was Frank Zappa's bass player. He just produced Robbie Krieger's album from the Doors. He took a picture of himself in his backyard, arm in arm with Robbie Krieger from the Doors. I'm having on Jesse Wagner. Lenny Kravitz's backup singer. She was in Chic. She just put a solo album out. I mean, unbelievable talent and musician.
That's what happens when you walk in the path that you're supposed to walk on.
Oh, I'm walking in the path of love and light like it's never been. So this Sunday is the most. I have Pauline Butcher, who was Frank Zappa's secretary from '68 to '72. She lived in his house with him, with his wife and his kids. It's almost like a Frank Zappa reality show from her book from '68 to '72. So I'm like a giddy little kid reading this, like I used to watch Big Brother, and I get to talk to her on Sunday and ask her questions about meeting Eric Clapton and Mick Jagger, and like she met Eric Clapton, and when Frank Zappa introduced her at a bar, she said, "This is Eric." She said, "Hi, Eric. Do you play an instrument?" Whoa. It's so funny, and she's so honest in her book, and she's adorable. She's she was like a 21-year-old pretty woman from London that gained Frank's respect. She kind of stood up to him, and next thing you know, he hired her and moved her to LA, and she was part of the family. And she has these amazing stories. It's unbelievable. And she's gonna come talk to me. Cool. It's a lot of fun.
Now I want to say I've heard you mention his name quite a few times, and I did my research before this show. But Frank Zappa is like your guy.
He's up there. He's the top. So here's my band. I got Frank Zappa. We got Tom Waits on piano, Jaco Pastorius on bass. The drummer could either be Billy Cobham or Buddy Rich. I'm a Zappa freak.
So my question is like when he is such an iconic figure. I mean, like in so many ways. When did you first get introduced to him? I mean, where did the influence come from?
So when I was in high school, I was musical at a young age, right? So I used to play in I went to Catholic school 1st through 8th grade, played guitar in the church choir, took guitar lessons from the woman who led the choir, and she taught me some rock songs. And then I made a band with her kids. And I remember 8th grade talent show, we performed Stairway to Heaven. That was like the first time I really performed. Song. And then I did the guitar solo too. I was like, what? I must have sucked.
It takes 10 minutes for that. 10 minutes for it to start.
At least it took balls for me to get up there and try to play that in front of people. But then I got a job at a record store, and I worked at a record store from 8th grade till college. And my boss, Joe Human, was like my Yoda. He would play me everything. And I heard Frank Zappa apostrophe, "Don't Eat the Yellow Snow." Right, that's one of his famous songs, right? And it's just the complexity, and it gave me the feeling of a Carl Stalling, who he used to write music for Bugs Bunny cartoons and all that kind of like whimsical, funny, fun. But then it was rock and roll, and then he's like cursing, and then he's talking about blowjobs. I was like, oh my god, this is so funny! Like, but it's smart. It's done in a comical way, and a lot of people don't get past that. Because he can be crass, and he does things just to get you going. But the music, Frank's thing was he didn't want lyrics. He was a composer of like orchestras. He was like, I'd rather not, but if I'm going to write them, I'm going to have some fun. He was a very, very interesting man. I will say that on all elements of life, because he had very strong stance on a lot of social issues. Not only he was a musician, but I just looking back on everything. He testified in front of Congress in 1985 against the PMRC and research and music censorship.
Yeah.
He also He sent my friend. This is a quick story. I had 2 episodes on this. Friend my age, I'm 45. September '92, was about to not graduate high school. His government teacher said, "You're not going to graduate if you don't get an A on this. Here's the list of the topics for the next project. If you don't rock this, you're not graduating." One of the topics was PMRC music censorship. So Mike got up, got to his office, got the topic, went to the local record store with who my friend Malcolm Tent ran, and said, "What do I do?" And Malcolm said, "This is what you do. You write a letter to Frank Zappa at Barking Pumpkin Records and write a letter to Jello Biafra at Alternative Tentacles." Both were, harassed by the government for censorship. So Mike does it. Frank had been sick with cancer for 2 years at this point. He was going to be dead 9 months later. He wrote Mike back a letter, typed out a letter that is so inspiring with like capitals, like when he meant it, you can tell he typed it, signed it, sent him 100 pages of documents of everything he had done in Congress. I said, "Quote me anywhere you want, use this." He ended, I wish I had it to read it to you. He ended the letter being like, "Don't bend over to the mothers of Big Brother." It was unbelievable. And he did this in a weakened state about to die. So Mike, of course, rocked the exam, passed high school. Now he teaches in magnet schools in the inner cities in Washington, D.C. And he pays it back like tenfold. And that's what Frank Zappa's about. He sings about titties and beer, and he sings about fun things. But you know what? It was because there's an integrity in being an American that he understood, and he wanted to pass forward. Stand by your rights in the Constitution. Say what you want to say. Don't let them tell you can't say anything. And those were Democrats. That was Tipper Gore.
Doing that, yes.
Doing that bullshit, So, yeah. Frank's an interesting guy. So I think a lot of people blow him off and don't, not everything's for everybody. And you know what? There's some Frank stuff that's not for me. There's some of his music I don't love. But there's a little bit of something for everybody in there. If you know how to get there.
Do you have a go-to guy after Frank Zappa, or is there just...
Tom Waits. I'm a big Tom Waits fan. I love, I was just listening to this album, Bobby McFerrin's first album. Oh my God. He opens it up with a version of Blackbird by the Beatles.
Oh yeah.
It is so good.
Yes,
oh my God. This is another one I've been listening to. I can't stop.
Look at the vinyl. Look at the vinyl.
So I had no records 3 months ago. Now I have at least 2,000 records and probably 1,000 records and like 2,045s. And I own a record label now. I inherited a record label from my friend who passed away. This is one of the bands on my record label.
Awesome. A lot of my friends that are...
Nose Hair Records in Patterson, New York. The ironic thing. So my best friend in high school started this label. He starts it. It's Nose Hair, no mustaches. That's the moniker. So he passes. I inherited the Zappa guy, who's all about mustaches.
Yeah, a lot of my friends that are still collectors of vinyl, they get a lot of theirs from overseas. Are you getting it from?
Not yet. I've really just started buying local collections and doing some trading with local folks. Also, Big Jim Gibson's records in Buchanan, New York. I got a lot of my posters from him. He gave me that big Frank thing up there. Okay. So yeah, I've been trading, and I bought a 500 record collection for $20 last week. Oh. And the guy I bought it from was a DJ for 40 years, and he wants to come on my show.
Awesome. So it seems like COVID-19 has just been a budding opportunity for you.
It has. I'm definitely thriving instead of surviving, right? That's the choice. That's
another thing you talk about.
Well, you got to survive to thrive, but eventually you got to shift it up and not be paralyzed by fear.
I think a lot of people are living their life just on the surviving thing, and they don't understand the element of thriving. So is this
but sometimes you can't, so if you're 3 steps behind, you can't get to that, right? So some people need to get unparalyzed first, get through those first levels of fear to be able to get there. So you got to walk before you can run. But anything little I could do to try to help people smile, be happy,
So how do you help people thrive?
But hopefully by my show, bringing people on my show. I'm trying to give people opportunity. I had a 10-year-old girl from Kentucky who was played 3 guitar songs. She played like the Grand Ole Opry. She was just like powerhouse. And so just trying to, I don't know, have fun, spread love and joy. Okay. My show seems to be the best channel I found so far. Given that we're not out there having as much human contact where I can be smiley and bubbly and, goofy and try to make people laugh. Now I have my show.
Cool. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Now, I heard you say that you took guitar lessons in high school.
I took guitar lessons, started in 2nd grade, I think, from the Terry Cruel, who led the church choir.
Are there other instruments that you play?
I had learned piano a little bit, so I know a little bit. Actually, I'm really excited to learn some Scott Joplin. I've been listening to a lot of Scott Joplin, Ragtime, like The Entertainer, and Maple Leaf Rag. So I think that's where I'm going to go back and start back on piano. So I haven't really played. I have a keyboard. My son hooked me up with a keyboard. So I've been mainly playing guitar lately, though. And
do the kids play?
No, my son plays ukulele a little bit.
Oh,
Yeah. My daughter, she's banged around on flute a little bit. My wife was a flautist. Like she almost went to college for playing flute, but she's closeted as well. Got to get her back out playing the flute. We got to do a Stairway to Heaven. I've been telling you, we should record Stairway
I
to
know.
Heaven.
I love that song, but it's always like, okay,
It's a long one. It's a long one.
anytime today now. Okay.
Well, it's funny. It's funny to say my favorite Frank Zappa song is 24 and a half minutes long. It's called Billy the Mountain. It's a big story about a mountain that like walks across the country, and it's funny. But. So, do you play an instrument? Do you play an instrument or no?
Back in high school, this is my show. I'm supposed
I know.
to
I want to know about you, girl. Come on.
Yeah, back in high school, I played the flute and the oboe and all
cool.
of that. So, but yeah, I was in the band. But no, I want to circle back to your podcast. So
Sure.
So Dooners Guide Through Mirkwood.
Dooners Guide Through Mirkwood was the first 40 episodes.
Is that just Frank Zappa?
No. It was mixed. I mean, so when I first started it, my three passions and my guiding principles were, I thought, what do I really love? And it was yoga and meditation, scuba diving, and Frank Zappa and music, right? So those are kind of the three elements I was really focusing on in the beginning. And then once I got through the 40 and I saw I was having different people like artists and other, people on the show, I didn't want to be narrow. So that's why I think part of the name change to Dooners World is you could be anybody. You could be an artist. You could be a mime. Mime might be a little boring, but you can, yeah. Hey, why not? That'd be kind of funny in Zoom. Right? Hey, mimes need to make a living too. Come on now.
They're so annoying.
What are the poor mimes doing during COVID? I haven't thought about that. I need a mime support group.
Oh my God. The man, right? Just, okay. Okay, so wait a minute. Hold on. You mentioned scuba diving. Now, one of my favorite little destination spots is Belize, and I know they're very, very one of the elements is scuba diving. So where have you gone to participate in this extracurricular activity?
Good question. The mainly in Grand Cayman. So my wife and I did some scuba diving 17 years ago in Hawaii. But most recently, we started going to Cayman like 7 years ago. We went like 5 years in a row with my parents, my mother-in-law. We would get a condo. We kind of found like a cheap way to do it, to infiltrate the castle and and live with the other half for a couple of weeks. So after the first year, just snorkeling, which was phenomenal, we decided let's get certified. So we did, and then each subsequent year we would do 6 to 8 dives when we went down there. And it was great. One year I actually got to dive with Jose Andres, the famous chef who feeds the world. Funny story. We get in the van. And they're both small, maybe 10 people. And so my wife, my son, and Jose Andres' wife, and a few other people were like, why does he look familiar? We couldn't figure it out. As we're leaving, I looked it up on my phone. I was like, oh, that's who he is. So we're dropping him off at his hotel. And like I snapped the picture out of the window. I was like, that's Jose Andres. So we go home. The next day, I go diving with the same crew by myself. It was Jose, his whole family, and me. There was nobody else. So I'm crunched in the front seat driving. Jose Andres is in the middle, like this up against me. Like basically he's laying on my leg. My dive partner was a sous chef. I ended up giving his kid granola bar, taking pictures. It was so much fun. So Grand Cayman's a magical island. It's got a bad rap too, as being this rich, crazy place. And but there's real people. The people on Cayman, which make it, the Cayman kind. It's something special.
Awesome,
So yeah, that's to answer your question. That's where we did most of our diving. I think we dove in Belize on a cruise. But we didn't do real Belize diving. Okay. I talked to a guy a few years ago who had just bought a second house in Belize, and he was a diver. Okay. And he told me about some of the magnificent diving down there. So it's on my list. Get down there. That's what I really preach. You need to get out there and have as many experiences like you had with the Grand Cayman and like, ooh, who is that? I mean, because one day we will close our eyes for the final time, and you want to have some memories when you do that. So one quick one about Cayman, other than Jose Andres, we also got a picture with my whole family and Anthony Bourdain 2 years before he passed. So the reason Jose was there was because they had a Cayman cookout the same week we were going. So one year they were doing an event on the beach. We walked past, we saw Anthony Bourdain. We turned around and I said, "Hey, Anthony." And he turned around and like cheers his beer. So I was like, cool. So all year, my wife is teasing me. She's like, "Hey, Anthony," right? So the next year we're there and the same event's happening. And I'm like, we're getting a picture. Right? So we have dinner. We're all a little lit after happy hour. I'm like, come on, we're going. The event started at 7. I marched up the beach at like 20 minutes before. Just as I'm walking up, Anthony's walking over to go to his table. So I walked right up. I'm like, "Will you take a picture of my family?" He's like, "Sure." So the whole family comes up, and it was at a fancy place. It was like $400 a person to go in and eat and do it. There comes my whole family up, and we got this picture with Anthony, and God rest his soul. So,
awesome,
like you said,
awesome.
you got to take those special moments because you never know what's gonna,
That's
happen to
indeed.
you or anybody else.
That's indeed. Especially, when you bring up Bourdain and, how we are coexisting with other people in this world who are actually going through things. And, it's very stressful, especially with COVID-19. They say
Yeah.
mental health issues are just, exorbitant with this. But, it's very important to stop, embrace the moment, have some perky, happy smiles like
Yeah.
Mike brings to this world. But I mean, I really think people need to pay more attention to that. It's just we're already bombarded with weight that we weren't expecting, and I mean, you just. But let me get off my soapbox. Because we don't have that much time here. So let me ask my random question. And then I want you to tell everybody how they connect with you and get your podcast and stuff like that. Right? Okay, so let's see what we got. Totally random, out of a Tupperware bowl here. What is the worst purchase that you've ever made?
Ooh, what is the worst purchase? I mean, that's hard because if I think small dollar, you can have a ton of them, right? There's tons of things for $5-10 you've spent, but I'm trying to think of something more. Like, did anybody buy a bad car? No. I mean, one time I spent a lot of money to have my tires fixed, and then one of the bearings froze up while I was doing 70 miles an hour on the 684 coming home. That was a bad purchase, but it almost killed me. I don't know if I have, what can I give? Records? No, I never bought a bad guitar. What's the worst purchase? I guess I got to go with the tires. The tires that didn't work.
I'll take it.
Come on, tires that don't work. I think we spent like $2,000, and next thing you know, the next day, literally, it was rush hour coming home, 70 miles an hour in the passing lane on 684, the main road out in Westchester. I was actually on the phone with my friend, and my left tire completely locked up. It was like, I was like, and then I'm in the middle lane, complete stop. Cars are hitting each other all around me. I was like, so the car ended up having to push me out onto the side. One of the cars that was in the collateral damage was a brand new car coming home from the lot. But I didn't have to. It wasn't my fault. But that was a bad purchase.
Well, did the tires have a warranty?
They did. I forget what happened with it. It was a bad bearing. There was a bad bearing in the tire. That's what caused it. But
okay.
Yeah, that guy. Oof, that was a really bad purchase. I could have
died. All right. Well, Mike, I want you to tell everybody before we get out of here what days do you air? How do they reach your podcast? How do they connect with you? Because we need some warm smiles, and I mean, we need all your energy. So how do we get
come check it out? So it's Dooners World, DOONER''S World on YouTube. It's also Dooners World in iTunes, Spotify, all the normal podcast channels. There's also Doonersworld.com, right? That's my web store where I have some signed Ike Willis posters, CDs. I'm going to be putting a lot of vinyl up there. Some of my posters are going to be going up there. Also going to be delivering digital content off of Doonersworld.com. So go check that out. And then Dooners CBD is something I just started today. I'm getting the CBD racket. Psyched. Going to bring more healing, going to bring more love, hopefully, out to people. I had a CBD queen on, Amy Culver, the other day. And the first person to ask me about it afterward was my mom. So I was like, you know what? People need this. It's so Dooners World on YouTube, Dooners World also on iTunes, Spotify, Doonersworld.com on the internet, and then look for Dooners CBD coming soon. Some healing, and hopefully, so many older folks are suffering like aches and pains, and now you have that anxiety on top and more anxiety from this. So I think the magical healing powers of cannabis and marijuana are about to, really be unleashed on the world, and let's reduce the amount of drugs you need. Let's get these pharmaceutical companies out of business after they give us the vaccine, and then.
Well, let me ask you this before we go here. Are you going to be taking the vaccine?
I don't know. I'm not going to get sick. If I do, I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't know. No one's asked me that. I don't think there's not enough information to answer that right now. Right.
Gotcha.
I mean, who knows if it comes from Washington? No, but if it comes from Cuomo, yeah, probably. I'll check with Andy. I'll check with Andy C. We'll see.
If he says so, all of us New Yorkers will be on board, right?
I'll check with him. Then I'll check with my wife. She's the one who's really probably going to help me make the good decision there.
Yes, indeed. Well, Mike, I want to thank you for being on the show. I've had such a wonderful time. love your energy. I
Thank
love
you.
your energy. You know, sometimes, so many times I meet people and they're just blase, and the world is just happening to me, and
Yeah.
you know, and I be like, okay, well, gotta go.
Right. Well, you got to make the moments the way you want them. People don't realize they have more control over making.
That's
I
right.
feel like I'm really creating my dream day after day. I mean, it's wild, and
Your world is what you
that means I got
create.
to dream bigger, right? That means
That's
to dream
right.
bigger and keep on keeping on.
That's right. Your world is what you created. Well, thank you
Yeah.
again.
Thank
That is
you.
all for this week's episode. I am your host, Lana Reid, and I will see everybody next time.
Peace.